Chapter 136. Do you know what it feels like to die from your blood drying out? It's an expression describing extreme torment, used when someone suffers physically and mentally for a long, grueling stretch. We're feeling exactly that right now. A sensation like our blood's drying up. 3 days. We've been trapped in this ghost story, trembling in fear of death, waiting for our companions who'd never come, without proper sleep or food. We're experiencing firsthand what a human being is like in that state. Did you know that if a person doesn't sleep properly for a solid 3 days, they start to lose the ability to think rationally? We're taking 1-hour naps in turns on the second floor's food court, but that's barely sustainable. Every hour, our nerves were on edge because of mortal danger. Perfect for going insane. Especially if the person you're with was a minor who just got involved in a ghost story for the first time. Hayek. Where are we going? It's been 56 minutes. Let's move. The high school student I was supposed to rescue staggered to his feet, limping. He's probably more mentally drained than I was. He's starting to waver more from dizziness than from the ankle injury and was muttering nonsense into thin air instead of crying. He didn't even have the energy left to weep or get angry anymore. He's hardly eaten, too. Obviously, safe food was extremely scarce in this damned supermarket, and nearly everything that's available was something a high schooler wouldn't normally touch. Like rats or cockroaches. Things that clearly wouldn't be considered store merchandise by anyone's standard. He'd rather starve for 3 days than eat that lineup. Occasionally, we found items that shoppers already paid for but lost, things that appeared in the food court randomly. If those happened to be food, we'd eat them. In the last 3 days, that's happened exactly once. When had a banana ever been so precious in your life? Which means the only thing we've eaten in 3 days was that single banana. It's insane. Luckily or unluckily, we hadn't come across any other missing persons on the second floor, so we had no competition for resources. It made sense, though. Most missing people are on higher floors. Anyway, we're at our limit. The high schooler I'm looking after is out of stamina and willpower. Even trying to fill up on water from the food court's dispenser had its limits. If this were to go on for 2 more days, he'd probably be forced to eat those rats or bugs. Of course, it's even more likely that something else will go wrong before that. Currently, we got up to go to the bathroom every hour. If one of us would doze off or collapse and we miss our window, then that's it. We'd run into an employee. Whether it's an employee coming by to take orders, or one pretending to clean the restroom. Escorted outside. Reported missing. Nothing but a single line in an exploration record stating our disappearance. The mix of revulsion and dread creeping down my spine was overwhelming. Frankly, managing to survive for 3 days in a ghost story with an injured minor was already feat in itself. And to be clear, I'm not an idiot. I didn't intentionally create this situation. I never thought I'd go 3 days without finding Agent Bronze. Right. My senior agent has vanished. This is insane. On the first day, I thought maybe we were just missing each other. Did we spend those 30+ minutes hiding under the display while he came up to the second floor and left? If I didn't have an injured high schooler to look after, I might have been more aggressive in planning an escape. So, after much deliberation, I decided to stay on the second floor. If he wants to rest, he's most likely to come back here. Honestly, I didn't have much choice anyway. Hauling an injured teenager up and down floors was practically suicide. So we picked the relatively safe second floor to wait it out, and I still think it was a sound decision. But that guy never showed up. So from the second day on, I began searching other floors. I couldn't do long searches, because leaving the injured high schooler alone for hours seemed like a death sentence. But I pushed myself to the limit, even making a crazy trip down to the basement floor, and still nothing changed. Agent Bronze was nowhere to be found. At least not within the area I could feasibly search in an hour. That's how 3 days had gone by. And then, all this time, the supermarket never resumed normal operations. This is one of the reasons they urge you to escape before closing, the culprit that makes this supermarket a hell and lowers the survival rate for civilians. The shortest interval observed for the supermarket to resume operations is 1 day, and the longest is 20 days. It's impossible to know when it would reopen for business. That's right. No one knew when Lucky Mart's next day would begin. Sometimes it opened normally after just 1 day, but other times hundreds of hours might pass from a human perspective, yet not even a day has gone by in the supermarket's timeline. That's why people speculate the timeline in Lucky Mart gradually drifts further and further from reality, until eventually, it's stuck way in the past. Whether that's accurate or not doesn't matter right now. What mattered was the reality that we're facing. We've been trapped here for 3 whole days. And I'm starting to fear what might be going through the high schooler's head. We actually came here looking for a kid who lives in our apartment complex. Right then, I heard him mumbling dazedly. You came looking for him? Yeah. He sent me a DM saying he was heading to Lucky Mart, and then he vanished. So we thought it was some kind of ghost story, and decided to investigate. Good grief. But that was stupid. He's probably dead by now. How awful if he ended up in that blender. Don't go leaping to the worst conclusion. I patted the high schooler on the shoulder. For now, you'll be able to leave today. Hey. I had a reason to believe that. I recalled the record that presumably belonged to Agent Bronze. An unexpected situation arose, and the agent lost contact for 3 days. Result: rescue failed. Agent returned alone. If I reconstruct that. After 3 days, the Bureau re-established contact with the agent. He then escaped on his own. Even if the rescue attempt failed, he definitely tried to save the civilian. He must have planned to hold out until the supermarket resumed operation. So statistically speaking, there was a high chance the store would open again today. Wait, are you saying? Yeah. Let's see. Hope and expectation surged as I calmly checked my wristwatch. 09:59. My heart pounded. Any moment now, when the time changed. 10:00. On the dot. Silence. I waited a bit longer. But nothing happened. No jingle. No announcements. No lights clicking on. The doors did not open. Once again, the supermarket didn't reopen for business today. Content warning: suicide attempt. Shit. I blinked, a cold, dull shock rippling through my sleep-deprived brain. Is it over for us? And no, oh no. It's okay. We still have other ways. I turned my head. The high schooler was fidgeting with something. A receipt. Or rather, the Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau's leaflet in disguise. Most likely the same paper he found when he called for help. Why's he? Was he trying to look for advice? But instead of reading it, he was peeling something off the paper. Then he tried to put it in his mouth. I slapped the high schooler's hand away. Ah! I pried his fingers open and snatched what was inside. He struggled, but I ignored it. Don't. A white capsule-shaped pill. I know this. The Bureau once included these pills with the guide sheets for high-level ghost stories. Euthanasia pills. If it becomes unbearably painful, please take the enclosed capsule. We guarantee you a comfortable end. My worst fear was right. Damn it. So this was in the leaflet he found. Sorry. He was crying as he spoke. I just can't do this anymore. I don't want to get put through that blender. I'm so scared and dizzy, I just can't. I'd rather die comfortably. I couldn't breathe. I'm sorry. Am I being selfish because I'm the only one wanting peace? If half a pill is enough to kill someone, we could split it. no. I gritted my teeth at his panicked rambling, then forced myself to smile reassuringly as I patted his arm. It's going to be okay. There's still a way out. How, exactly? We've spent 3 days now unable to sleep, eat, or do anything. We can do this. I grabbed him firmly. Up until now, we believed the store would reopen soon, so we tried to stay as safe as possible. If it's not opening anytime soon, there are other methods. Are really? Yes. It was true. As long as I made one decision. Abandon Agent Bronze. Forget any worry that he won't escape because he's looking for us, any pressure that we need to confirm each other's survival, any hope that we can get help from him. Throw it all away. Anyway, the record showed that Agent Bronze did manage to escape on his own. It's just that, he would fail to rescue the civilians. The idea that he might also save the civilian who went with him is fantasy. Time to snap out of it. I decided to do everything I could with my capabilities. If the two of us have to wait until the store reopens. My priorities shifted swiftly. After 3 days of stewing over it, I already had the next plan ready. We're going up. Hey! Don't take that pill. Put this in your mouth instead, just keep it in there, alright. I handed the high schooler a nostalgia candy. A strange item that would revert you to your best physical condition. Wow! The moment he popped it in his mouth, the high schooler's expression changed. My leg, it's fine now. Think of it as letting it melt slowly. It only works while you're holding it in your mouth. Yes. He stood up, face bright with excitement. Even his mental state seemed to revert to its best condition. I half expected him to ask why I hadn't given it to him sooner, but apparently he was too thrilled about his miraculous recovery to think of that. So, the 3rd floor is the top level, right? Is there some escape route up there? We can get out if we go there? Are we escaping now? We're going up there to prepare for an escape. And also, the 3rd floor isn't the highest floor. Hey! Sometimes you'll find a door that leads above the 3rd floor. But the leaflet said not to go up there. That was correct. This supermarket has 3 floors above ground and 1 basement level. To reiterate, do not trust any emergency exit leading to a 4th floor. The 4th floor is not part of this supermarket. Looky Mart's 4th floor. A gimmick that's practically a meme in the records. It's a keyword that screams missing. Headed up to the 4th floor. The sentence ends there, and everyone vanishes. No matter how intense or gripping their exploration was before that, it wouldn't matter. It's like they become entranced, and poof. They'd disappear without explanation. All the more frightening because nobody ever wrote why they'd go missing, or what's actually on the 4th floor. It's an unspoken agreement, even in the case that covered a disappearance in the most detail, that part would always be missing. I recalled one particular entry. The agent who realized the rescue targets were all dead and decided to challenge it. /start of recording. Agent Choi, so, I'm on the 3rd floor, and I've just found a door leading to the 4th floor. Agent Choi, I'm only going to open it a little. I'm not crazy, okay? But we can't just leave that place alone, right? Isn't it recorded that nearly 100 people have gone missing after going upstairs? The agent rambles on with personal excuses and parting words considered to be a will. Agent Choi, all right, I'm opening the door to the 4th floor now. And it's open. Ta-da! Sound of door opening, footsteps entering, door closing in quick succession. Agent Choi, looks normal enough, just some old emergency exit. There's a staircase. Nothing unusual. The exit door's still there. He observes for a few more minutes, no anomalies. Agent Choi, great. I'm heading up now. Echoing footsteps. Presumably the sound of someone climbing up the stairs. Agent Choi, let's see. The exit's still. Oh. It's gone now. So I've got no choice but to keep going. Off I go. Footsteps continue for 30 seconds. Agent Choi, Wu. Made it. Fourth floor door. Agent Choi, looks like nothing special on the outside. It's just a metal door. Agent Choi, alright, I'm opening it now. Sound of a metal door opening. At the same time, Lucky Mart's jingle starts playing. Agent Choi, hey? The jingle grows louder, shifts in tone. Agent Choi, wait. A cacophony that defies description. Deafening roars, bizarre howls, noise like wind filling a void, begging, balloons rubbing, bursting sounds, 12 unidentifiable noises, and dot. Agent Choi, silence. Agent Choi, welcome to Lucky Mart. Nothing of note recorded in the next 24 hours. When the battery died, the recording ended. The agent's recorder was later found in the electronics section on the third floor of Lucky Mart. It's the kind of record that'd make you vow never to open that emergency door leading to the fourth floor. But don't worry. Once we find the door, I'll show you what to do. That's our destination. Okay. Whether because of the trust built over 3 days or from witnessing the mysterious power of the nostalgia candy, the high schooler obediently nodded. Let's move quietly. We left the second floor food court. Then we carefully climbed the stopped escalator. To avoid being noticed by any employees, we even took off our shoes and went barefoot, moving as silently as possible. We stopped talking. Step by careful step, in total silence, cold sweat trickling down our backs. And finally, upon reaching the third floor. Something was off. Originally, in the old Lucky Mart, the third floor was said to be used for limited-time deals. Different themed promotional stands would rotate daily with various discounts on display. But what we saw now was... what is this? That display was repeated endlessly. An endless supermarket. If floors 1 and 2 simply recreated Lucky Mart's past, making it feel eerie, then from the third floor onward, the space stretched out infinitely in a bizarre manner. So far, 3,611 event stalls have been reported on the supermarket's third floor, covering an area of 232 square kilometers. Always confirm your starting point. If you lose your way, you may never find the escalator leading down again. A giant maze, like stepping into the mad blueprint or painting of a deranged mind, where infinite lines of stands and special displays repeated, perfect for driving someone insane. On the other hand, that meant it was easier to evade or hide from employees. Some parts of the supermarket supposedly went months without a single employee appearing. It's also good for secretly stealing food or necessities. If you give up on escaping, that is. So that's likely where countless missing persons were scattered. Perhaps Agent Bronze too. Stick to the wall. If you see the emergency door, let me know right away. Why yes. We pressed ourselves against the back wall of the escalator and moved slowly, entering that dizzying path of endless display racks. In the dim store, lit only by emergency lights after closing, corner after corner repeated among the shelving. Camping gear sale. Winter season outlet event. Housewarming gift specials. Sell your flesh at Lucky Mart. Spring cleaning kitchenware super sale. Soon, the signs turned increasingly disturbing. Each time I saw one of those stalls or signs, I'd turn away and choose another path. For about half an hour, we crossed from one stall to another, confirming the escalator's location and how far it was to us. Then, I heard a faint noise. Some dull, distant sound from beyond the next set of shelves. I quickened my pace. Bit by bit, the noise became more distinct, until at last. Hey? Is someone there? Hey? The high schooler jerked his head up. Who's there? Need some help? A voice calling from far away. That's another person. SHH. I crouched down with the high schooler and whispered a quiet warning. It might not be human. And even if it is a human being, if they've been here a while, are they still normal? No way they could be in their right mind. That possibility was unbelievably slim. And the fact that they had such a friendly tone. That's dangerous. It was scarier if it was a human being. Hey! You there, you're a person, right? I can help you. We started running, hugging the wall. The friendly-sounding voice kept calling out. If I keep talking, the employees might come. I know a way out. I can help you. Sweat beaded on the back of the high schooler's neck. I kept moving, gauging the distance to that voice. Hurry! You don't want an employee seeing you. Shit! Should I try to subdue them, even briefly? But then, if employees really showed up? Right, if it's an actual person, maybe letting them get snatched by an employee before they reach us is best. Just keep moving. Wait a second. That. Suddenly, as I lifted my head, something came into view along the wall we were following. A metal door. A green-lit emergency exit. A&D. A sign. 3F Northeast Arrow 4F. That. There it was. The emergency exit leading to the 4th floor. I immediately ran over and grabbed the metal handle. Then, in a rush, I gave the high schooler a crucial warning. Whatever you do, do not go up those stairs. Hey! After we open the door and step in, stand right there, don't move. Got it? Don't ever move from that spot. The high schooler nodded, fear in his eyes. All right. This was my theory. Agent Choi, looks normal enough, just some old emergency exit. There's a staircase. Nothing unusual. The exit door's still there. But once he started going up the stairs, the door suddenly disappeared, right? So, if you put it another way. If we don't climb the stairs, the door on the 3rd floor won't vanish. Because we hadn't actually left the 3rd floor yet. And if that guess was correct, this spot was safer than anywhere else. There's no record of employees climbing to the 4th floor. Because that floor wasn't part of the supermarket. So, the space inside the emergency exit leading to the 4th floor would remain a safe zone only people could enter. That would simplify everything. I can even use the food I stored in my tattoo there. Because once we go through this door, it's no longer part of the supermarket. We can stay on the stair landing and check outside at 10 o'clock each day to see if business has resumed. It's the safest bet we have. Trying to escape with an injured high schooler without an infinite supply of nostalgia candies. This was our best shot. No matter how terrifying the rumors of the 4th floor were, we just had to push through. I gritted my teeth and opened the metal door. Squeak! It made the exact noise described in the records, revealing an old staircase inside. Let's go, and be careful. Why yet? We went in together. And to prevent any unforeseen incidents, I tore out a scrap of paper from my notepad and wedged it between the doors so it wouldn't fully close. From the outside, no one would notice it was open. Phew! That should help us evade that crazy person chasing from behind. And just as I was taking a breath. Agent Grapes! The high schooler tugged on my arm in a shaky voice. While pointing upwards. Look! Up the stairs. I felt a chill and raised my head. Someone was standing inside the staircase to the 4th floor. A pale-faced woman with sunken eyes and short hair. Human. Go Yanjun. My batchmate who's a former med student. What? My brain couldn't process what the hell was going on. But then I noticed what she was wearing. A metal badge pinned to her collar, the official identification for Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau agents. Ah! Words from my memory resurfaced. 2 agents who went in earlier are currently in a short-term missing status within this disaster. Agent Bronze mentioned it earlier. There were 2 missing agents. And one of them happened to be my fellow spy who'd infiltrated the bureau as a new recruit. Go Yanjun. Chapter 137. Go Yanjun was one of my more level-headed colleagues. That much was certain. Even when we woke up on that deranged subway during the company's entrance test, and later when we escaped the psychotic art exhibit that involved plucking out visitors' eyes, she never lost her composure. But right now, seeing Go Yanjun at the stairs leading to the 4th floor, the source of so many disappearance stories in this bizarre supermarket. She's a real human being, right? She was too calm. Despite the high schooler's startled cries, her pale face didn't flinch. No words. No expression. She just stood on the stairs, looking down at us. Wait. She's standing on the landing. Wait, that's... Didn't the door to the 3rd floor vanish the moment someone started going up the stairs, making it impossible to get back? Then... How long has she been there? No, more importantly. Why, is she here? Sure, Go Yanjun could be one of the 2 agents who entered earlier. The mention of 2 missing was a clue already. The bureau typically sent out agents either individually or in pairs, so 2 usually means a senior newcomer pair. But here she was, a new recruit, on the stairs to the 4th floor. Alone, with no senior agent in sight. And presumably for at least a week. A foreboding sense of dread prickled up my spine. Agent. No reply. Miss. Goral. Go Yanjun's lips parted. Welcome to Lookie Mart. I immediately shoved the high schooler behind me and reached for the door. Agent. We appreciate your business, dear customer. Expressionless, the figure stumbled down the stairs. It was Go Yanjun. Or rather, something that looked like Go Yanjun, acting like an employee. Shit. I was about to fling the door open and drag the high schooler out, when I realized something odd. The sound. There was no squeaking. And she wasn't dressed in a uniform, still wearing her bureau attire. So. Contaminated. I looked again. The shape of Go Yanjun, a clearly human figure, was descending the stairs. Hold the door handle. Hey, what? I lunged forward, pinning Go Yanjun as she stepped onto the landing. Welcome, to Lookie Martinique. Okay. She still had a human body. Which meant... Holding her shoulder down with one hand, I reached into the tattoo on my wrist with the other, pulling out the last of my blue soda chos. Then I shoved it into Go Yanjun's open mouth as best I could. She didn't even resist. She just kept trying to walk and recite the same line. In the process, her teeth moved naturally, crushing part of the cho, at least enough for it to go down her throat. Sweating all over, I watched. And, moments later... Gui. Go Yanjun retched violently, spewing a deluge of water. I patted her back. The stair landing was soon slick with inky black fluid. It wasn't quite enough to drown in like my month on Bronze talk show, but it was nonetheless bizarre enough to make the high schooler recoil in horror. Finally, she vomited a bluish liquid, slumped, and I caught her. Hey, Hugh. Agent. I called out to my colleague. Her eyes, now aware, shifted to me. They dilated. She started trembling uncontrollably. Mr. R. dear. She'd come back to her senses. She responded to being called agent, and she was alert enough now to the fact that we were inside a ghost story, so she addressed me by my alias instead. Thank goodness. Ugh. She suddenly tried to crawl back up the stairs again, and I grabbed her in a panic. Hua, ugh, damn this supermarket. Even the hallucinations look real. Ack. I won't be fooled. Mr. Rodeer's dead. Ah. Right. Hey, I'm not dead. Agent. I got assigned to the same job as you. It took another few dozen minutes to convince Go Yanjun, who believed I'd died during my month-long disappearance, that I was very much alive, and had re-entered as a spy. Thank you. Thanks to you, I survived. No, don't mention it. Fortunately, once Go Yanjun regained her composure, she cross-checked a few details with me and accepted the situation. Though trying to explain everything without giving the high schooler weird intel was a different level of difficulty. Looking at the now empty Chos wrapper, I felt a strange mix of emotions. The Chos. They're really something else. I hadn't paid it much attention before, because everything in Braun's late-night talk show happened so crazily fast. But if it could clear contamination in a single go like that, it was an unbelievably powerful item. In the context of dark exploration records, it's almost too good to be true. Anyway, the priority right now was escaping this deranged supermarket. Still, I felt a bit more confident now that another person had joined, especially because it was a colleague I could actually rely on. So, first, I needed to confirm something. I stepped aside and clearly showed Go Yanjun the door leading back to the third floor of the supermarket. Can you see the entrance? Go Yanjun nodded. Yes. Phew. Rather, I can't see the door itself, but I do see light coming through a gap. If someone opens it for me, I think I could get out. That's good enough. The moment I let out a little sigh of relief, Go Yanjun lifted a hand to cover her face. But I can't leave the supermarket anyway. Hey! I damaged merchandise. That's okay. We're outside the supermarket here, so unless you were seen eating something in there. No, I broke stuff in the supermarket and got caught. It wasn't me, exactly, it was another agent, but I guess they treated us as equally responsible. I fell silent, then asked. Where is that senior agent now? He's dead. Or at least, I'm assuming he is. He went up that staircase. Go Yanjun pointed up the stairs. His family had disappeared here, apparently. Their last trace ended on the 4th floor, so he came here specifically intending to go up there. I mean, is he crazy? If he wants to die, go alone. Why drag me along just when Anyway, I stayed here while covering my ears. But the moment he opened the door to the 4th floor, I still heard it. The jingle. And not long after, she ended up acting like an employee. Pardon me. Call me Grapes. Right. Agent Grapes. Go Yanjun rubbed her face, then looked up. Her expression was more composed. There's no hope for me anyway, so if you two plan on leaving, I'll at least serve as a decoy. I got trapped and contaminated here, almost starved, that's the least I could. No. After a moment's hesitation, I stepped back and pulled the high schooler forward. Hey? Agent. Actually, we could really use your help. He has an injured ankle. We barely managed to persuade the nervous high schooler to take the candy out of his mouth for a moment. Then I handed over the emergency first aid kit I'd brought, and Go Yanjun treated his ankle with skill 20 times more professional than mine. But if he goes back to eating that candy afterward, won't this be kind of pointless? The candy. Just keep the splint on for a few hours anyway. With his stamina and composure drained, the high schooler returned to a state of near panic, so he needed some coaxing. I took out my bargaining chip. Let's eat this first. Food. The high schooler's eyes went wide as saucers. The instant meals I whipped out vanished in seconds, shared among the three of us. We can finally eat these now that we're technically outside the supermarket. Back in the food court, we could only eat safe foods, so I'd never dared bring these out. Even then, I only chose items without a strong smell, just in case. Honestly, I've never eaten this fast in my life. I polished off a carton of UHT milk in about 2 seconds, then wolfed down a Castella cake in under 30. I feel alive again. After that, we put the high schooler to sleep. I wanted to collapse and rest as well, but first I needed to talk to my equally exhausted colleague. We exchanged the information we each had, and made small talk to recover our mental strength. Mr. R.O. I mean, Agent Grapes, you always come so prepared. Meanwhile, I wasted space lugging around a store layout map. She said, sounding bitter, explaining that the third floor was so enormous that her map was hardly useful. It was basically a scattered mess of vague details. I even brought some coins from a different darkness, just in case. But it looks like they don't count here as valid currency. Wait a minute. You have a map? Yes. It's part of the standard equipment for the regular exploration team. They want us to investigate places that haven't been fully explored yet. Could I see it, please? Of course. From a small backpack, Go Yanja-un took out what looked like a thick, folded pamphlet. It was a printed floor plan of the building, overlaid with handwritten notes and sketches in various colors. The handwriting of Disaster Management Bureau agents. I stared at it, almost spellbound, until I noticed a specific store name. There was a separate notation on the map. Some people seem to think they could get something out of this stall, but that's just suicide. Don't go. Agent. What you mentioned before. Currency to pay. Hey? Why yes. I think there's a place where we can get that, based on a hint on your map. But Go Yanja-un took a deep breath and shook her head. I'm sorry, but I object. The third floor is so huge, who knows how long it'll take just to get there. And I'm afraid of how long it would take to find our way back to this stairwell afterward, especially without any item to fend off employees or danger. Beads of sweat formed on her calm face, and she seemed to be trying hard to hide her fear. You two can leave when the store reopens. I'll just wait for a rescue. If we don't have another way to dodge employees or anything, I'd rather not. Well, here's the thing. Now we do. Remember? There's something we've used before. I retrieved an item from my inventory tattoo, something I hadn't touched in ages. Now that we were 3, we met the recommended number of participants. It was finally usable again. And there was no need to think about Agent Bronze for now. Quick and easy candle making kit. I held the mysterious candle kit item box in my hands and, for the first time in 3 days, I allowed myself a faint smile. Let's make some candles again. In the manner of the blind, this candle-making item had played a big role in our escape. Now was the perfect time for a comeback. In that dark stairwell, the 3 of us crouched down, looking at the floor. I spread out the black paper that came with the kit, carefully drawing intricate patterns for the candle. Then I suggested, let's each draw a card. Phew! Wow! Go Yanja-un and the high schooler each drew a random card by its back. Their cards would determine the candle's attributes. Confusion. Dream. Not bad. It oddly matched their current state of mind, but hey, it worked. Now it was my turn to pick the final card. I flipped the remaining cards face up. Honor, healing, meditation, wound, deceit, rage, interference, protection, strike, gaze. Last time, I chose deceit. We used honor, interference, and deceit to trick the automated exhibit machines and pretend we were legitimately paying patrons. In that case, I chose without hesitation. Protection. An illustration of 2 hands gently cradling a glowing lavender crystal. I burned the 3 chosen cards into ash, sprinkled them within the crayon outline of the candle on the black paper, then folded the paper, just like I'd done once before. After waiting a while, it's done. Wow! A pale indigo candle rolled out from inside the folded paper, landing in my hand. Obviously I couldn't use this, and the high schooler, who was living on borrowed time through the nostalgia candy as it was, obviously couldn't either. Besides, there was someone here with first-hand experience. I offered the candle to Go Yanjian. I'll leave it to you again this time. All right. Taking the completed candle in her hand, Go Yanjian spoke in a subtle tone. This time, I'll do it properly. With those words, she lit the newly made candle. The flame flared up from the wick, and a prayer bearer shall lift the candle to any confused being, bestowing the power of dreams, manifesting protection. And the bearer will be granted a blessing. Visitor amidst the fog. Whoosh! The candle light shone upon us. Ah! I stood behind Go Yanjian, with the high schooler in tow. It reminded me of when Braun would turn off the lights. But colder, and more ethereal. It felt as if a cool fog followed the candlelight, enveloping us. Slowly, we opened the door and stepped out onto the third floor. Even though we carried a flame in a dark store and should have stood out, somehow it blended in naturally, as if we were shrouded in mist. And then we ran into an employee. Hayek! I covered the high schooler's mouth when he made a sound. The employee, squeaking a little as it approached, simply brushed past us without incident. Ha! Go Yanjian let out a breath, more relief than fear. Thank goodness! This time, the alien shop item proved its worth again. But unlike our time at the exhibit hall, the duration of this item was even more of a concern. We might have to hold out until the store eventually reopened. Once the candle burns down, that's it, so we need to move quickly if we want to use it again after business hours resume. Got it. Where should we go? Here. I pointed to a spot on the floor plan Go Yanjian had brought. When she glanced at it, she recoiled in horror. Wait. It'll be fine. Let's go. We were already holding the candle, and blowing it out by getting into some scuffle would be a terrible idea. So despite wanting to object, she started moving. Thank you. I could see why she was so reluctant. The place I was headed. Sell your flesh at Lucky Mart. Was a bizarre event stall with that insane sign. If the other stalls imitated Lucky Mart's old sales promotions, these freakish ones felt more like glitches, abnormally tacked on. In this particular spot, there was nothing on the white floor except row upon row of grills. And in the silence, something was sizzling. Heek! Quiet! I clamped a hand on the high schooler's shoulder as he started trembling. Not that he was overreacting. Ha! Right on the grill displayed out front, pitch-black charred meat was cooking as a demo. You could tell at a glance it came from some two-legged creature in a shape far too familiar. Likely missing persons, repurposed as store supplies. I feel like throwing up. But I held it in. Above us was a banner. Just like the agent's notes said. Instant barbecue event. Participate alive, and receive a guaranteed gift certificate. A gift certificate. Who the hell wants to win a gift certificate in a place like this? It would only attract the long-term missing people, and they'll attack you. They're basically not even human anymore, don't bother rescuing them. But for now, we were briefly able to melt into the supermarket's surroundings, our presence softened by the candle's protective fog. I lightly tapped Go Yanjian on the shoulder. Could you please shift to the side? I need to stand in front of one of these empty grills. Hey? Wait a second, this. It's fine. It wasn't fine. I desperately wished someone else would handle this. Wouldn't anyone in their right mind? But one of my companions had been trapped in the stairwell, contaminated for over a week. The other was a civilian miner. Not exactly people I could saddle with something so extreme. Besides, this was an opportunity. I have to get that gift certificate. If I took this on, I'd get the currency directly, allowing me to control how it's used. I want to push my own plan for escaping, so I need to take the initiative. I gritted my teeth. First, I used a syringe of Happy Maker so I wouldn't go into shock. My hands were shaking. Calm. Calm down. From items I had swiped on our way here, I pulled out one, trying not to let my shaking fingers drop it. A massive butcher's knife. Its razor edge glinted. Hey. It's all right. As long as we don't break the item and return it to its original state, the store won't register it as a purchase. That's not the issue, agent. I brought the butcher's knife down on my own right forearm. Chapter 138. Warning. This chapter contains violent and gory scenes. Reader discretion is heavily advised. From the moment I saw the store layout, I'd been agonizing over it. Just how much of my body would I have to cut off and place on the grill for this damned supermarket ghost story to count it as barbecue? I considered everything from the wrist to the shoulder. But from the start, I knew my target. My right arm. If I cut a leg, I'd lose mobility. If I cut my left arm, I couldn't use my tattoo. Besides, I'm almost ambidextrous anyway, so I'd be able to function with whichever arm remained. In other words, there was only one conclusion. Cut off part of my right arm. Of course, slicing a fully grown adult forearm, bones and all, measuring around 10 centimeters in diameter with a knife is crazy. Obviously, it wouldn't be done in a single chop. An electric saw would have been better. Thwack, thwack. I used a giant butcher's knife, practically ripping my arm apart. Amidst the splatter of blood, I could hear the other two sobbing softly. There was no pain, but I could still feel it. The sensation of nerves in my arm being severed. Cold sweat trickled down my back, my mind reeling with dull shock, terror, and fear. I'd definitely injected myself with Happy Maker, yet it was hitting me anyway. Am I building up a tolerance? Or maybe the candle's protection somehow dampened its effect. Or it could just be in my head. Either way, the crucial fact is that I didn't go into shock, and I could still move. And then... thwack! The final blow. It came off. Done. With my right arm fully severed, I tucked it under my left arm while pressing something against the cut, the blood-sucking knife. I can't believe I'm using this to stop the bleeding. It was just a temporary measure. Ignoring the blade's tremor as it drank my blood, I pulled it away and pressed the wound to the grill. If I still had any sensation, I'd have passed out right then. I held it there just long enough to stop the bleeding. Once I was sure I wouldn't die from blood loss, I moved again. What the hell? Just a moment. A heavy thud sounded. I took the piece I'd removed and chopped it in half. I had to match the approximate size of the other chunks already on the grill. Then, without time for anyone to react, I put one of those halves on the grill. SSSS. It sizzled, or rather, burned. It was burning. Burning away. It's just a piece of meat now. No longer mine. And as soon as we escape this insane supermarket, I plan to drink Daydream Inc.'s C-grade regeneration potion. Then everything will be fine. Stay calm. Sweating profusely, I stared at the grill with unfocused eyes. And after a hellish stretch of time. Ding! In this Sell Your Flesh at Looky Mart stall, where dozens of grills are lined up randomly, one of them made a noise, like it was just another grill in the row. A counter, like a mini checkout, had a plain white envelope labeled "Thank you for participating in our event." With my one good hand, I managed to open it. Inside were gift certificates, and they looked kind of like sloppily made play money. 50000. If this were a normal supermarket, that'd be a pretty hefty reward for joining some promotional event. But whether it's enough in our current situation is another question. What is this? What are you? Wait. One more time. I repeated the process. Except this time, I told the high schooler to put the remaining chunk on another grill. He almost collapsed, but he gritted his teeth. It tore me up inside, but we had no choice. Go Yanja-un had to keep holding the candle, and my own participation wouldn't be counted again. And only after another 50,0001 voucher appeared did I allow myself to pop a nostalgia candy into my mouth. Ha! I'd resisted until then, worried about messing up the event outcome. But the second that candy touched my lips, it reverted me to my healthiest point in time. Nostalgia's magic. It's okay. See? I'm all better now. Hyuk, hyuk. The high schooler wouldn't look at my newly restored arm. He couldn't even nod. Go Yanja-un had gone deathly pale, but mindful of the candle, she didn't turn around or freak out. She already knew I had a special regeneration potion from Daydream Incorporated, so maybe that's why she managed to contain herself. Agent, did you just take the potion? No. It's an item that temporarily restores my appearance. Her shoulders twitched again. It was only the right arm missing, so even if something else happened, we wouldn't have trouble running. Please don't worry. How can you say that right now? Fine. All right. I silently thanked her composure. At any rate, I'd finally used one of my last nostalgia candies, which I'd been saving to endure the worst. I finally recovered after 3 days of no real sleep or food. And now, my status was... wow! This was insane. My mind, now somewhat clear, was spinning wildly, sounding alarms at the dangers. Over the last 3 days, I'd been pushed to my limits, acting like a madman, and only now was I starting to realize it. I haven't been thinking straight since about the second day. I was under the impression that I had searched the entire supermarket thoroughly while leaving the high schooler in the second-floor food court to go find Agent Bronze. But that's not actually possible. If I could supposedly scour it in just a handful of hours, it means there was nowhere truly hidden in the first place. This wasn't a tiny convenience store or a small corner shop. It's a massive chain supermarket. The very idea of searching it all was impossible, especially considering the infinitely repeating third floor. So my judgment was completely shot. It's not just the high schooler in panic. I, too, had been half crazed for 3 days. Let's go back to the emergency stairwell. Yes. We walked under Go Yanja-un's candlelight, and I cleaned the butcher's knife of my blood, repacked it, and put it back where I found it. In the process, my mind flickered with new inferences. Mistakes. Counter-arguments to the little certainties I'd clung to so casually. Does Agent Bronze really escape on the 3rd day? Let's recheck that exploration record I could somehow still remember. Exploration record number 3. An agent responded to a civilian distress call and entered the store around 7 p.m. Agent. Looky Mart closed early due to reason. An unexpected situation arose, and the agent lost contact for 3 days. Result: rescue failed. Agent returned alone. First counter-argument. The entry time is different. We entered after 8 p.m., while the record said 7 p.m. Sure, maybe that changed because my presence delayed the schedule. He had to hand out items and explain the situation to me, among other things. So, we entered about an hour late, which could somewhat line up. But the crucial point was still one thing. The situation wasn't exactly the same. I shouldn't be forcing my situation to fit that record. Second counter-argument. It never said when the agent escaped. Lost contact for 3 days didn't necessarily mean the supermarket reopened on the 3rd day. So my certainty that business hours would definitely resume after 3 days was nothing more than a leap of faith. Phew. And let's think more rationally about the bigger picture. Right. From the beginning. Isn't it odd that the Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau would let a newly hired agent dive straight into a high-level ghost story? It's not like this was daydreaming. They wouldn't send someone unprepared into a fracture-sanctioned nightmare, roughly on par with a Daydream B grade, unless there was some solid safeguard. So if I reason from that premise, there's something that comes to mind. Bureau agents would sometimes get assigned an item allowing emergency escape from ghost stories below a certain level. And with a newcomer, that item usually stayed under the senior's control since a panicked rookie might misuse it. In other words, if Agent Bronze really was issued such an item, then he'd do everything he could to take me with him on that escape. It's a matter of responsibility. Agent Grapes. Just a moment, please. I paused and tried to piece together the first day's events from Agent Bronze's perspective. A situation where he got separated from his new recruit. No shared coordinates or direct communication method. Just that one glance of "I'll see you upstairs." High-level ghost story with unexpected complications. A veteran used to handling rookies. Ah. Agent. Yes. I think I can figure out where my senior ended up. After I neatly summed it up with, teaming up with a veteran will give us a better chance to escape, Go Yanja agreed to use the candle for further exploration. Our destination. This specific escalator, right? Yes. The escalator going from the first floor up to the second, that's the one. All three of us descended to the first floor and stood in front of the escalator. The steel rails lay silent in the dark. But this was an escalator we'd never used before. The high schooler and I had only used the opposite escalator, the one that went from the second floor down to the first, while crawling up. And that's the only one I used. Anytime I tried searching alone, I'd check between the escalators and the floor, hoping to recover the fishing line from the items we used. That's how desperate I was. But normally, if you want to go upstairs, you'd use the escalator that goes up. Agent Bronze must have expected I'd use this escalator. I handed the high schooler another nostalgia candy, letting him stand in front. 3 left. I'd have to be more cautious with them. But at least for the time being, I needed the maximum efficiency from it. Agent, would you mind going up the escalator? I'll walk slowly. Be careful. Yes. Go Yanja led the way onto the escalator. The three of us began walking up on foot. Phew. Let's think. Just like I'm deducing his actions, Agent Bronze might have been predicting mine. And he was probably more rational than I was, given I'd been knocked off balance by everything, witnessing people get ground alive in a blender, a high schooler with a broken ankle to rescue, and so on. Trying to see it from his perspective. A rookie agent, who had some ghost story experience but is traumatized and timid. If, on that first day, I moved more cautiously than I actually did, what would I have done? I probably would have gotten to the second floor a lot later. Instead of rushing there, I might have lurked on the first floor, hiding in different spots, too overwhelmed to do much, typical rookie behavior. Agent Bronze would guess it'd take me a long time to make my way upstairs. But if he had a different, supposedly safer hideout in mind, knowing I'd panic if I arrived on the second floor and found him gone, then there's only one possibility. Let me leave a sign before he even gets to the second floor. I peered at the escalator's billboard, spotting a red advertisement panel near the bottom. There, as if it were just another piece of the display, the corner of a receipt peeked out. A Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau leaflet. Hey! It was easy to miss in a normal supermarket scene, but for anyone in the know, it was like a shining beacon. While my companions murmured behind me, I carefully peeled it off and opened it. On the back, thick scribbled writing. Off-season winter camping mega sale. Leftmost wall on the 3rd floor. 12th stall. I think I know where he is. I recognized it as a sign left by Agent Bronze. Under candlelight and fog, we moved quickly. We practically formed a 3-person relay, hustling through the store. 12th stall, right? The 12th. Yes. Realizing there was a chance we might find a friend, even the high schooler pushed on, determined. We passed through the eerie, repetitive spaces of the massive store until we reached Off-season winter camping mega sale. It finally appeared. A display area set up like a camping scene, with tents, a campfire, a burner, chairs. Squeak! One side of the tent slid open. A nervous face peeked out, eyes scanning the area. Hey! Kim Ja-hun! The high schooler who'd stayed with me dashed forward from the circle of candlelight. It made sense. He'd come in looking for this friend, the one Agent Bronze had taken along. Oh. Are you okay? Hyuk, wow. Both kids clung to each other, crying. I tensed a moment, shouting outside the candle's protection might attract danger, but nothing happened. Agent Bronze must have set something up. Thank goodness. With that in mind, Go Yeonjun and I relaxed a little and walked over. Shall we put out the candle for a moment? Yes, let's. We followed the veteran agent's lead to a safe zone. Sniff. It took a few minutes for the two high schoolers to calm down. The one who'd been with Agent Bronze looked like he'd been through a lot, but he wasn't badly hurt or exhausted. He must have been well looked after. That's the difference between a rookie rescuer and a veteran, I guess. Feeling a little guilty, I watched the two high schoolers. The one I'd been taking care of, effectively fine now thanks to nostalgia candy, forced a smile. I'm just glad you made it out okay, too. Yet. Something felt off. I noticed the boy rescued by Agent Bronze displayed signs of fear and panic. Granted, he'd been wandering this ghost story for days. But even so, his anxiety seemed more pronounced. Go Yeonjun leaned in and whispered to me. Agent Grapes, that high schooler isn't who you were looking for, right? Right. Then, where's that agent? An unsettling feeling crept up my spine. No way. I locked eyes with the high schooler Agent Bronze had been guiding. He flinched, as if scared. The reason we'd come here, after all. Where's the agent? Sitting in the tent, the boy's eyes brimmed with tears again. That agent, he got spotted by employees. There were dozens of them, all at once. I think he was caught. The employees, must have dragged him off somewhere, Hyuk. After 3 days trapped in the Lookie Mart ghost story, Agent Bronze had already been reduced to mere store supply. Multiple groups have published this chapter. Choose your preferred version. Chapter 139. Agent Bronze, dragged away by supermarket employees. That future was easy to imagine. After all, I had already witnessed a similar case on the first day. Just recalling that supply being ground alive in the mixer sent cold sweat trickling down my spine. And now, the veteran agent I had been searching for over the past 3 days might be suffering the same fate? The high schooler Agent Bronze had been taking care of described the situation as if vomiting out the memories. At first, I felt a little reassured. On the first day, the agent moved the rescued student to the store's tent area, secured the surroundings, and seemed to take some measures. The anomaly happened on the second day. Originally, well, he was looking for you. Us. Yes. I think he was trying to find you. But instead of finding me, Agent Bronze stumbled upon something else entirely. That guy came out. That guy? Everyone turned their heads in the direction the high schooler was pointing, but all that was there was the tent fabric. Ugh! Then, the student got up, walked outside the tent, and opened the entrance of the adjacent one. Inside, a uniform-clad figure was lying down. Lee Subin. The high schooler I had been taking care of sprang up and dashed toward the tent. Then, looking back at me, he spoke urgently. That's the friend we were looking for. Lee Subin. Ah! The friend who had gone missing first, the one these students had been searching for. Subin. The high schooler called his friend repeatedly. But Lee Subin did not respond. Lying in the tent, staring blankly at the air with a slightly open mouth, he looked completely vacant. Has he been missing for too long? His body was covered in scratches and bruises. It was a pitiful sight. But now, I had a better idea of why Agent Bronze had been missing for days. Where did the agent find him? I don't know. He just suddenly brought him back and said he found him. He asked if he was wearing the same uniform as us. Having to take care of 2 underage civilians would have severely limited his movements. For 2 days, he must have been focused on looking after them, waiting for business hours to resume, while simultaneously waiting for me to safely arrive at the stall. So, when exactly did the agent disappear? I think early this morning. That was more recent than I expected. All of a sudden, a bunch of employees swarmed in, and then, they just took him. He wasn't seriously hurt or anything. Just taken. How would I know? I think so, but if that's the case, shit, we're screwed, right? We're all gonna die, aren't we? The only competent guy is gone. And you're just a rookie, aren't you? That's what the agent said. Hey! Why are you talking like that? Are you insane? The high schooler I had been taking care of flinched and scolded his friend, then glanced at me and Go Yanjun, gauging our reactions. The other high schooler, the one who had been with Agent Bronze, sniffled and lowered his head, ashamed. Anyway, we're doomed, aren't we? No. Go Yanjun spoke firmly. We are not doomed. You have a safe place to stay, and you have more adults here to help you. Things have actually improved. If you start acting reckless just because you think it's over, you'll lose even the chances you still have. If you want to make it out safely, we all need to cooperate. Understood. The 2 high schoolers nodded. The one who had been shouting at us now looked embarrassed, regret written all over his face. I suddenly thought that Go Yanjun might be better suited for the Disaster Management Bureau than Daydream Inc. Phew. After calming the students, we stepped outside the tent for a moment. Go Yanjun let out a short sigh, gulped, then turned to me. I wasn't just saying that to reassure them. I think we need to believe it, too. I agree. And, actually. I hesitated, then whispered to Go Yanjun about something that had been bothering me ever since the high schooler's account. My senior agent, there's a chance he's still alive. That's right. The missing people who had been processed as supplies could, if unlucky, be used immediately according to the employees' routines. But usually, they wait their turn. Like proper inventory. The employees were mimicking supermarket work, which meant they stored supplies according to regulations. And the place where those items were stockpiled. Somewhere deep inside the supermarket's staff-only area. He might be in the supply warehouse. Supply warehouse. Unable to escape from the supply warehouse. Considered deceased. That kind of sentence appeared frequently in the. But looking at it another way, it also meant that missing persons still had the chance to attempt an escape. That they were alive, still conscious, and physically capable. There were even rare cases of successful escapes. That is, if they possessed a special item or ability. Of course, there were also plenty of cases where the missing had already been processed in accordance with their intended use as supplies. But what mattered now was this group currently possessed one of those special items that could grant access to the supply warehouse. I looked at the soft-textured mass that Go Yanjun was holding, the one that now had its flame extinguished. A mystical candle. It required 3 people to create, but once made, a single person could carry and use it. As long as it can be lit. However, for some reason, I couldn't ignite this candle that only people of current times could use. So, I couldn't carry and use the item alone. Agent. Let's go. With 2 people, we have twice the brains and twice the hands, it should make things a little easier. Go Yanjun glanced at my arm before nodding, her expression stiff. She was taking into account the fact that I could only function properly by relying on nostalgia candies. Thank you. I should be the one saying that. If it weren't for you, I would have died on that stairwell. She shuddered briefly, as if recalling it. Anyway, let's go, to find your senior agent. I nodded. We're about to go out and find Agent Bronze. The high schoolers' reactions were intense. Wait, if you both leave, what are we supposed to do? What if an employee shows up? If we're left alone? You'll be fine. I calmly placed a hand on the high schooler's shoulder. Another agent already set up protections before leaving. Agent Bronze had likely chosen a section of the store where employees rarely appeared. But long-term missing persons could still attack unpredictably, so he must have accounted for that as well. Is that it? I noticed an object pressing down on a tent peg. It looked like a simple toy jack but was actually a specialized item. Weighted air stone. Equipment of the Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau that creates hallowed ground. I recalled its description. Placing these stones in a designated area would create a safe zone, repelling malicious forces. Contaminated missing persons likely couldn't recognize this store section properly and would simply pass by. If only the agent had stayed put inside this barrier, he wouldn't have been taken. The thought left a bitter taste in my mouth. Will you come back? Of course. I'll find the agent and return. I handed a nostalgia candy to the high schooler I had been taking care of, instructing him to rest but keep it ready, just in case he needed to take it to move. Though he looked uneasy, fortunately, he accepted my advice. Whoosh! Go Yanja-un reignited the candle, and I stepped back into the fog and shadows it cast, blending into its obscurity. About a third of the candle has melted. We had to move quickly. We took our first steps, advancing through the eerily vast and seemingly endless third-floor store sections. The agent was taken from the third floor. That meant we needed to find a door along the walls of the third floor again. What kind of door are we looking for? Remember the announcement before the store closed? And how, at the same time, those balloon-like employees flooded in? Yes. It's the door that opened back then. This time, however, we didn't have to find it on our own. Skreek! 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 Let's follow. We trailed behind a single employee, moving stiffly, its gaze hollow and empty. It wandered through the third floor for a while, seemingly imitating a patrol routine. Then, as if its shift had ended, it returned to its point of origin. Staff only. A metal door leading to the staff section. Creak. The door opened. There were many similar doors scattered around, but they were all likely connected through an ant nest-like network of corridors, leading to one shared space. Somewhere inside, we had to find the supply warehouse. Holding our breath, we slipped through the door just before it shut. And then, we were met with the overwhelming sight of the inner staff area spilling out before us. HHK. Go Yanja unclamped a hand over her mouth. Under the bright fluorescent lights, countless employees were crammed together, stacked upright in tight vertical rows. These weren't the grotesque, balloon-like employees that emerged after closing hours. They looked like normal human employees. Stacked. Crushed. Wedged together. Those were the only ways to describe it. In this brightly lit, modern space, so seemingly ordinary, human bodies were stored in layers, crumpled and compressed without a hint of abnormality. They looked like the employees who were working during business hours. Herb. Go Yanja swallowed back a dry heave, trying to steady her breath. So they were mimicking shift rotations, too. I didn't even want to imagine how those crushed bodies emerged looking normal when business hours resumed. Revulsion crawled up my throat, but I forced my feet to move. Without the candle and the nostalgia candy, I would have given up right here. Skreek! Skreek! The employee started moving again. Should we follow? Yes. Our footsteps echoed faintly in the staff area, making my nerves tense up. With nothing but the candle's protection, we advanced cautiously. I remember every turn we've taken. Don't worry, we won't get lost. All right. Since both of us were memorizing the path, even if one of us lost track, the other could compensate. We held our breath and pressed forward. More employees. Fragments of what used to be employees. Half-formed remnants, muttering the same distorted greetings over and over again. My skin crawled, every pore standing on end. But we had to stay alert. We needed to find the warehouse. We can do this. We can do this. Through hallways, break rooms, and warehouse areas strung together in a surreal, disjointed layout, until finally. Supply storage. The sign was posted above a door, and in front of it stood a cluster of employees, packed tightly together. Skreek. 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 The employee we had been following joined the group in front of the door. Ha! Go Yanja swallowed hard, staring at the iron door now completely obscured by employees. If we slip inside when they open the door. And just then. Clunk. The supply warehouse door opened from the inside. Several employees stepped out, carrying supplies. And that's when I saw it. A familiar face among the supplies. That person. A tall, broad-shouldered young man in an agent's uniform, being carried by two employees. Agent Bronze. But he had no legs. A cold chill slithered up my spine. Could it be? Yes. It was clear. Agent Bronze had been processed into a mannequin. The only upside was that there was no bleeding. But with his eyes closed and his body limp, he looked completely unconscious. Should we move in? Yes. We trailed closely behind the two employees carrying him. Even as we followed, my mind went blank. What the hell are we supposed to do? Fucking hell! Is he still alive? Should I call out to him? But even with the candle's protection, would making noise this close to the employees be safe? Creak. Just then, the two employees carrying Agent Bronze passed through the staff area exit. That was actually better for us. After a brief moment of hesitation, I made a bold move. Stay as close as possible. Go Yanja nodded, quickening her pace to stick right beside the employees. And just as they entered the foggy range of the candle's protection, I reached out toward Agent Bronze. I gently tapped his neck. Tap, tap. Agent Bronze's eyes snapped open. I swallowed hard. Agent. And in that instant. PFFF. One of the employees carrying him deflated like a punctured balloon. A second later, the other employee also began collapsing, hissing out air as its form crumpled. And in Agent Bronze's right hand, a small, transparent pistol. Glass handgun. A standard-issue weapon from the Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau. It shone in the hands of a true professional. With a flick of his wrist, the pistol vanished back into thin air. You, dear customer. UAUFH, hello. The employees who were deflating let out bizarre noises, repeating scripted customer service phrases. Something even more grotesque and nightmarish seemed to be writhing inside them, trying to emerge, but before that could happen, Agent Bronze had already tied them down. Binding rope. A standard-issue suppression item. In an instant, his hands moved, wrapping the two employees in thin, cord-like restraints. Then, as if subduing them completely, he sat down on top of them. Handling two employees like that. He made it look so effortless. They won't be able to make a commotion for at least 5 minutes. His skill was almost like a magic trick. It was hard to believe this was a man who had lost both his legs. Agent Grapes. Agent Bronze looked up at me with a faint smile. The eyes of someone who had already resolved themselves. You made it. I'm glad my endurance paid off. And who's this? His gaze shifted to Go Yanjun, one of the missing agents who entered earlier and survived. Go Yanjun lowered her head. You did well. I'm glad you're safe. Agent Bronze looked at me with a warm, almost resigned expression. It made me feel sick. Agent Grapes. He reached into the inside of his agent uniform. Take this. It's for escaping. A pair of shoelaces. They were woven with 5 colored threads, an intricate pattern with a strangely glossy texture. There are only 2, so the 2 of you can leave. Tie them onto your shoes, take 3 steps forward, and you'll be instantly transported out of here. I involuntarily glanced at Agent Bronze's lower body. His missing legs. He couldn't walk. He couldn't use the escape item. For him, there had never been a choice. I'll look for another way. You, on the other hand, ensure your own safety. There's not much time left. Hurry. No, I could use nostalgia candy. If I gave one to Agent Bronze, he could escape right now. But, no. I clenched my fists so hard they turned white. I only have 3 left. If I used one to let him escape now, then what do I do with just 2 left? Of the 3 high schoolers I needed to save, 2 were unable to move on their own. Wouldn't it be better if Agent Bronze stayed to help? The calculations swirled in my mind, making my head pound. Was there another way? Something else? Ah! That's it. Agent! I pretended to retrieve something from my belongings, but in reality, I pulled out an item from within my tattoo. A small glass vial, glowing a fresh, leafy green. Daydream potion. Regeneration. See, excellent. My lifeline. I subtly angled it away so that Go Yanjun wouldn't see the label, then discreetly showed it to Agent Bronze. Drink this. It's a regeneration item. Wait. It's fine. It's a verified item. I shot a quick glance at Go Yanjun before she could object. If my guess is correct, this wasn't just about making Agent Bronze's escape easier. This was an investment. A move that would yield even greater returns. A build-up toward my real goal. This is the right answer. A shiver ran down my spine with the satisfaction of finding the most optimal solution. Suppressing the instinctive fear of loss. Go Yanjun, though visibly unsettled, remained silent. But Agent Bronze didn't take the potion immediately. Instead, he studied my face, his expression unreadable. Was this made where you're from? Yes. I gave a small nod, forcing a smile. It's my last one. I know you might find it uncomfortable. But you need to take it. An unreadable flicker crossed the agent's face. It was a clearly complicated expression, impossible to discern whether it was a reaction born out of reluctance or anger. Then, with a sharp exhale, he reached out. Tack! A short sound as the vial landed in his hand. Without another word, he unsealed the potion and drank it in one gulp. Chapter 140. Daydream Inc.'s ethics may be questionable, but the effectiveness of their potions was undeniable. Like magic. As soon as Agent Bronze drank the C-grade regeneration potion, flesh burst forth from the stumps of his severed thighs, rapidly reconstructing into the shape of fully restored legs. Go Yanjun swallowed hard. She had used the same potion on herself before, but this was her first time witnessing it in action, and she was in awe. I felt the same way. Seeing such a large area regenerate instantly, and it was only a C-grade potion? Didn't they say it costs about 10,000 points? It was an effect so overwhelming that anyone watching would be shocked and mesmerized. I unconsciously tried not to touch my right arm, which had been restored by nostalgia candy, as I continued watching the scene. Phew! Soon, Agent Bronze mechanically tested the movement of his legs. Then, standing up barefoot, he grabbed the binding rope that restrained the employees, before lowering his head slightly, avoiding my gaze. Thank you. Yes. As if she couldn't hold back any longer, Go Yanja muttered under her breath. You could afford to be a little more grateful. Ah! What do you? Let's talk outside. Hurriedly, I cut off their conversation and suggested returning to the base camp that Agent Bronze had set up. But the binding rope began to tremble. The two deflated employees, who had been subdued with holes in their forms, started to twitch. And over there, the door to the staff-only area we had come from. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. A heavy, repetitive thudding sound rang out. Then, with an ear-piercing creak, the metal door burst open, and employees poured out. This way. We barely dodged the stampede of employees rushing toward us, hastily pulling Agent Bronze beneath the candle's shadow. 3 people. With the group full once more, we pressed ourselves against the wall, avoiding the terrifying wave of employees flooding into the area. We'll be fine. We're inside the candle's range. Agent Bronze glanced at the candle in Go Yanja's hands. Is that originally yours, too? Yes. I deliberately lowered my voice as I looked back at Agent Bronze. I told them I got it from you, so, I'd appreciate it if you could go along with that. Agent Bronze gave a slight nod. He's cooperative. Even though he knew the item came from Daydream Incorporated, he wasn't questioning it. It seemed like giving him the regeneration potion had earned some goodwill. Skreek 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 skreek. Damn it, I can't even think straight. The number of employees kept growing, their presence suffocating. Go Yanja backed away instinctively, her ears turning pale. The binding rope lost its effect. The 2 distorted employees who had been shot with the glass handgun began grotesquely oozing out of their restraints. And the other employees that had poured out surrounded them, circling frantically, like a bizarre ritual. Their arms were crushed under the weight of the swarm, heads flattened, but then popped back up, reshaping unnaturally. It looked like some kind of bizarre ritual. It looks like they're looking for the person who harmed an employee. If you harm an employee in this mart, and they see it happen, they'll hunt you down until you're caught. Yet he shot them without hesitation and sat on top of them? Agent Bronze's expression hardened. I figured this would be my last mission anyway, so I was prepared to handle the consequences. Go Yanja seemed ready to argue again, but held back. Let's move. Now. Yes. We hurried away from the disturbing ritual-like gathering. Still, the relentless squeaking sounds echoed behind us, an unsettling, high-pitched noise. Phew! I looked down at the floor. Then at Agent Bronze's bare feet against the cold mart tiles. Agent, do you have spare shoes? In the camping section. Okay. I checked my wristwatch for the time. Luckily, we had found Agent Bronze fairly quickly, at most, 2 or 3 hours should have passed. Even if I accounted for some distortion in my perception of time, it should still be around evening. Maybe around 1900 hours. At least, that's what I thought. Until I looked at my watch. 09:04. 9 o'clock. In the morning. I looked again. But the time was still exactly 10 hours off from my estimate. It obviously wasn't the past, which meant it's the next morning. The time is acting strange. And at that moment, I realized it. Agent Grapes. Time does not flow consistently in the staff-only area of this supermarket. So that's why the layout felt nonsensical, like spaces were stitched together without logic. It wasn't just confusing. It was designed to be terrifying. A horror cliché. Maybe it had been mentioned in the manual, but it was such a common phenomenon that I must not have paid attention, but that wasn't the issue now. How long have the kids been alone? To make matters worse, Agent Bronze muttered grimly. 9 o'clock. Yes. Let's move as quickly as possible. The barrier I set up in the store doesn't have much time left. We sprinted toward the camping section, almost at full speed. The fact that we didn't drop the candle was a miracle. Ha, ha! And we were just in time. The high schoolers were on the verge of fleeing. They're not coming back. And something's wrong right now. That's... Damn it! The agents hadn't returned for over a day, and the store had been filled with the relentless sounds of moving employees. Understandably, the students had panicked and were preparing to escape to another floor. They had been desperately debating how to transport their catatonic friend, whether to leave him behind, and what to do next. But the moment they saw us, they collapsed on the spot. Agent! This was a nightmare. We led the high schoolers, who were simultaneously crying in relief and yelling at us for being so late, back toward the center of the camping section. Meanwhile, Agent Bronze swiftly checked the barrier he had set up. How much time is left? About an hour. Damn it! At least we're guaranteed an hour of safety. Let's use it to regroup quickly. Go Yanja-un immediately extinguished the candle, checked on the student's condition, and started piecing together what had happened. She's so reliable. Phew. I'll keep watch. You should focus on getting changed. Understood. While Go Yanja-un was inside the tent, Agent Bronze took the chance to change into a spare agent uniform he had brought with him. Meanwhile, I listened carefully to our surroundings, trying to figure out our next move. The stairwell is too narrow. I wanted to hope against hope that the store would open today, but counting on something that convenient was bad for my sanity. I swallowed the sugary aftertaste of the nostalgia candy, then distracted myself with another concern. How are you holding up? I'm fine. Agent Bronze reached into the blood-stained pockets of his old uniform pants, quickly re-equipping some of his gear. But, one item stood out. He had been casually retrieving and organizing his belongings until he picked that one up and froze. A white pop socket. A label was stuck to it, handwritten. Must be delivered. It reminded me of the Memorial pop socket. It looked like something from the Disaster Management Bureau. Agent, that's... Agent Bronze silently stared at it for a moment. Then, without a word, he tucked it into his new uniform and muttered. It belonged to another agent. I found it, in the supply warehouse. And from his tone, I realized. There were other agents in the warehouse. Most likely, he had taken it from a fellow agent's corpse, one that had been stored in the supply warehouse for a long time. Now fully dressed, Agent Bronze looked up and met my gaze. Then, he asked in a low, quiet voice, "Did you enter the supply warehouse?" I shook my head. For a brief moment, relief flickered across his face. You did well. From now on, avoid places that feel wrong. Human instinct is surprisingly useful in dealing with supernatural phenomena. What the hell was inside that warehouse? I didn't know the details, but the manual had given me enough descriptions to guess. Dozens of dying people, processed into supplies, rotting and mutating inside. I forced myself not to imagine it and changed the subject. So, what does that item do? If it was useful, Agent Bronze would have mentioned it already. And sure enough, his expression darkened slightly. It ensures a guaranteed transmission of an emergency rescue request to the Disaster Management Bureau. Ah! It's an attachment for a smartphone. I thought maybe I could send out a message from here, but it seems like it only works if the user is designated as a rescue target. So it was specifically designed to function only for missing persons. That agent must have been carrying it to give to someone else. Under normal circumstances, it was an invaluable item. But here, where it didn't recognize us as rescue targets, it was useless. I couldn't even begin to imagine what Agent Bronze had gone through, enduring inside that warehouse. Are you done changing? Yes. Go Yanja-un stepped out of the tent. Agent Bronze, I think you should talk to the students. They already know you're the highest ranking agent here. After a brief nod, Agent Bronze entered the tent. With a deep sigh, Go Yanjun sat down beside me. How are the students holding up? They're all right. Now that all the agents have returned and even managed a rescue, their morale has skyrocketed. Because they still didn't realize we would have to flee this tent section right away. Phew. Both Go Yanjun and I sighed at the same time. I really hope the store reopens today. Yeah. Please, please. I agreed wholeheartedly, slumping down. I mean, it was running just fine when we first entered, but how many days has it been closed now? Exactly. Every word hit home. It was open when we arrived. Wait a minute. Gee grapes. I shot up from my seat and sprinted toward the tent. Then, I threw open the entrance. Agent Bronze and the high schoolers looked up at me in shock. That emergency request item, can we use it right now? Hey! Agent Bronze stared at me, momentarily confused, but soon, with a surprising amount of patience, he answered, the item itself is functional, but agents can't use it. What if one of the students uses it? Duplicate requests are deprioritized compared to the first report. The high schoolers flinched. Right. They had been the ones who sent out the initial request, which was why we entered this damn Lucky Mart in the first place. But there's one more student. I thought of the student still lying blankly in the other tent. The friend of these high schoolers, the one Agent Bronze had found. The missing person who had never sent a rescue request to the Disaster Management Bureau. Calm yourself, Agent. Agent Bronze spoke gently, as if trying to steady me. This device only allows for a 33-character message, and detailed explanations are impossible. That's fine. I wasn't planning to explain our situation with it. The student can request rescue however they see fit. As long as they do that, then. If my theory was correct. I swallowed hard. The supermarket will open today. I rushed to the adjacent tent. Then, from the 3 remaining nostalgia candies, I took one and fed it to the unresponsive student lying there. The student named Lee Subin. Unlike the others, this student had gone missing days earlier, before the initial rescue request was even made. Go Yanjun had suggested that a familiar face nearby might help ground him, so the other high schoolers stood beside me, anxiously watching. I tore open the wrapper and placed the nostalgia candy into Lee Subin's mouth. Subin? Are you okay? Drip, drip. Tears streamed down his face. And then, he started sobbing. Yup, yike. It's okay, it's okay. The high schoolers rushed in, hugging him tightly. Nostalgia candy restored a person's body and mind to their peak condition, but it didn't erase their painful memories. I stood back and let them help him recover, checking the time. 09:22. And then, when we couldn't afford to wait any longer. 09:43. I finally spoke. Student Lee Subin. Yike. Yes. To be honest with you, to get out of here faster, we need your help. I handed him the smartphone with the emergency request attachment. Write down your name and ID, then type Lucky Mart and send the rescue request. Please. With trembling hands, the student took the phone. And then, he frantically started typing. Help me please, I'm trapped in Lukimer to live in district please. It was a message filled with pure desperation. Tears dripped from his eyes as his fingers moved. Then, he sent it. You did well. Try to rest now. I couldn't bring myself to tell him to spit out the nostalgia candy. If my theory was wrong, then maybe I would need to save it after all. For now, we wait. Leaving the students behind, I stepped outside the tent. Zeeb. Go Yanjun, who had been sitting nearby, looked up at me. I sat down beside her and kept checking my watch. Waiting for that time. 4:10 a.m., the opening hour. 09:50. 51. Agent Bronze began preparing to retrieve the protective item. 09, 54. I calculated how long we could hold out in the second floor food court if we failed. 09, 58. In the worst case, who should receive the two escape items? Then. 09, 59. The moment approached. All three of us lifted our heads, staring at the ceiling and the air above. Waiting for the signal. A&D. 10:00. Time was up. Agent Grapes, RUALRI. NA, NA, NA NAN NA, NA, NA NAN. A chime-like melody suddenly filled the store. Lucky Mart's doors are now open. We welcome our valued customers with bright smiles today. A cheerful announcement. The familiar store jingle played without distortion, ringing through the mart loud and clear. Flicker, flicker, flicker. Bright fluorescent lights flickered on. Sunlight began streaming through the glass windows. And the grotesque employees vanished as if rewinding. With an eerie, creaking noise, they were sucked back into the staff-only area, disappearing through the gaping metal doors. A heavy thud sounded. The doors slammed shut. Every single one of them was gone. Not a single trace left behind. The supermarket had finally reopened. Ha ha! We survived. I collapsed onto the floor. It worked. It actually worked. Exactly. Go Yanjun, looking more excited than I had ever seen her, clapped me on the shoulder, her face flushed with relief as she glanced around the mart. How in the world did you know? It doesn't matter. Let's just get the hell out of here first and talk later. But Agent Bronze, who had been staring at the store in a daze, suddenly turned to look at me. The emergency request. This was. Yes. Had he figured it out? I finally smiled and answered. The store has to be open for a rescue agent to enter. Yes. Kind of like reverse logic. I forced the mart into a situation that made sense where it had to reopen. Right, by changing the conditions. You said before that there's no way to stop people from entering Lucky Martinique. It wasn't just in the agent handbook I received. The manual also stated it explicitly. A known method to end or seal it does not exist, and proactively preventing disappearances is likewise impossible. Even the entry conditions were documented. Lucky Mart entry condition: roam around for over 20 minutes, within a 3 km radius of the old Lucky Mart location, searching for the store. Which meant, as long as someone follows that condition, they will be pulled into this cursed Lucky Mart ghost story. But now, let's flip that logic. Then, if someone is about to enter, Lucky Mart must be open for business. Lucky Mart must be open for new victims to enter. And that means, a new agent is coming today. Go Yanjun blurted it out, her face flickering between shock and realization. Because the high school student sent a rescue request, a new agent will be entering. Correct. So, if the Disaster Management Bureau had received that request and sent someone. Yes. Today, the store had no choice but to open. I smiled. Go Yanjun briefly smiled along, but then, confusion settled into her expression. Wait. Then doesn't that mean the cause and effect are reversed? Exactly. It's not that the store opens, and people go missing. People need to go missing for the store to open, so it starts business every morning. That's completely out of order. That's why it's a ghost story. A bizarre, twisted reality that doesn't follow the laws of logic. Just like how the infinitely repeating third floor made no sense. Yeah, that makes sense. The confusion on Go Yanjun's face shifted into grim understanding. She looked like she wanted to run out of this supermarket immediately. Honestly, I felt the same. So let's get out of here. We quickly got up and started preparing to leave. We have gift certificates. We have escape items. That was more than enough to get all 3 high schoolers and the 3 of us out. Well done. As we packed up, Agent Bronze whispered quietly. Then, with a glance, he motioned toward the 3 students stepping out of the tent, faces lit with hope. These civilians are being rescued thanks to you. Honestly? That wasn't true. If either Agent Bronze or Go Yanjun hadn't been here, we all would have died. Still, just as I was about to thank him, suddenly, I had a strange thought. It felt too easy to speak. The usual obstruction in my mouth was gone. Ah! And I realized I could no longer taste the sugary sweetness of the nostalgia candy. The candy had completely dissolved. Which meant, Agent! Agonizing pain exploded from the right side of my body. Multiple groups have published this chapter. Choose your preferred version.